There are moments in our lives when everything feels as though it is falling apart. When silence falls and God's voice seems distant. But in those very moments, there is an unseen hand molding us, shaping us for something far greater than we could ever imagine. Many of us long for breakthrough, but we fail to recognize that it is often the trials and the quiet moments of life that prepare us for it. It is in the furnace of affliction, where we are tested and refined, that God does his deepest work in us. And it is through patience, endurance, and a steadfast spirit that we are prepared for the destiny he has promised. Welcome to C.S. Lewis. Here, you will discover the path to a deeper and more meaningful relationship with God. Before we continue, please remember to subscribe below to stay up to date with our latest videos. Every subscribe, like, and comment helps us keep the C.S. Lewis channel going. Now, keep listening. Have you ever felt as though the heavens were silent? That you prayed, longed for a word, but nothing came? It is in these silent moments that many believers face their greatest trial. The silence of God, though perplexing, is not abandonment. It is a time of testing, a time of waiting. The very essence of our faith is being shaped in those moments of quiet, when we feel farthest from him, and yet he is closer than we know. As Lewis once wisely pointed out that we may ignore, but we can know where we cannot evade the presence of God. Even in the silence, he is there, watching, waiting. There are seasons in the believer's life where God, in his wisdom, prunes every tendency that could destroy or abort your glorious future. It is in the pruning, in the cutting away of the old, that we find our true strength. It is a painful process, but a necessary one. And in these moments, we must remember, silence does not mean absence. Consider the story of Abraham. It was after he had patiently endured that he obtained the promise. His journey was not quick. It was not easy. It was filled with moments of uncertainty, moments when God seemed silent, but his faith held firm. There is a powerful lesson in that patience. Success, true success, never happens overnight. It unfolds over time, in its own season, and often in ways that we cannot rush. We must learn to endure the silence, just as Abraham did. And in doing so, we discover the power of waiting, the power of trusting in God's timing. God does not rush his process, and though it may feel like a slow journey, we must remember that the destination is worth it. His promises will come to pass, but only when we have been properly prepared to receive them. It is here, in this waiting period, that our courage is tested. Lewis once said, "Courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point." It is in the waiting that we are called to exhibit courage, to press on, even when the path is unclear, to keep moving forward in faith, believing that God is working in ways that we cannot yet see. So, I ask you, how will you endure when the silence falls? Will you trust that God is still present, even when he seems distant? The answer to that question is what will shape your destiny. The key to your breakthrough lies in how you navigate the silence and the trials that come with it. Will you choose to endure, knowing that God's promises are sure? Remember, my friend, God is not absent in the silence. He is preparing you for something greater. Let that knowledge sustain you as you walk through the quiet moments. For in time, his voice will speak again, and when it does, it will be more profound, more powerful than ever before. Life, as we know it, is not a series of pleasant moments, nor a sequence of uninterrupted successes. It is a journey of perseverance, a path that is often difficult and filled with challenges. And it is in those challenges that we are most likely to encounter the raw essence of our faith. It is through struggle, hardship, and pain that we discover who we truly are, and more importantly, who God truly is. I remember once reading a passage from Hebrews 6:15 that speaks of the faith of Abraham, who after patiently enduring, obtained the promise. These words seem simple enough, yet within them lies a profound truth. Patience, perseverance, and endurance are essential ingredients in obtaining God's promises for our lives. The fulfillment of our destiny does not come without a cost. There is no easy way to victory. Success takes time, and sometimes it takes a lifetime. But what happens in the waiting? What is God doing in those seemingly endless seasons of silence and trial? The answer, my friends, is that He is building something within you, something precious. He is shaping your character, refining your spirit, and testing your commitment to His calling on your life. And though the process is often painful, it is a process that cannot be skipped if we are to truly experience the fullness of His promises. C.S. Lewis wisely observed that courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point. It is easy to be courageous when the path is clear, when everything is going well. But true courage is revealed when we face adversity, when the road is dark and uncertain. It is then, in those moments of doubt and fear, that we must choose to stand firm in our faith, trusting that God is with us, even if we cannot see Him. In these moments, we are asked to exhibit what I call the courage to endure. This is not the same as a momentary burst of bravery. No, this is the courage that stands the test of time, that refuses to be shaken by the trials that come. It is the courage that presses forward, even when the finish line seems impossibly far away. And it is this kind of courage that will lead us to the fulfillment of our destiny. Think about the story of the Israelites as they wandered in the desert. For 40 long years, they walked without seeing the land they had been promised. There were days when they doubted, days when they complained, days when they wanted to turn back. But in the midst of their journey, God was faithful. He provided, He sustained them, He led them forward, step by painful step. And though it took time, they did eventually reach the promised land. The process of waiting, the process of enduring, was necessary. Without it, they would not have been ready to possess the land that God had promised. Without it, they would not have understood the value of the promise. It is often in the waiting that we learn to appreciate the gift that is coming. So, what about you? Are you willing to endure? Are you willing to trust God in the silence, to believe that He is working even when you cannot see it? It is in those moments of endurance that we learn to appreciate God's faithfulness, His timing, and His promises. As Lewis reminds us, the task of the modern educator is not to cut down jungles, but to irrigate deserts. This is true not only for educators, but for every believer. We are called not to escape the deserts of life, but to learn how to thrive within them. It is in the desert that our faith is watered, that our roots grow deep, and that we are prepared for the fruitful seasons that lie ahead. When the winds blow, when the storms come, when the desert seems unbearable, remember that it is not the absence of God, but the shaping of His character in you. God is refining you, making you stronger, more resilient, and more prepared to fulfill the destiny He has laid before you. The key is to endure, to keep pressing on, even when the way seems unclear. The courage to endure is the courage to trust, even when we cannot see the way forward. It is the courage to stand firm, knowing that God will fulfill His promises in His time. And as you continue on this journey, take heart. The process, as painful as it may seem, is preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine. So, I ask you again, will you endure? Will you allow the refining fire of God to mold you into the person He has called you to be? The promise is there. It may take time. It may take patience. But it is yours. Keep pressing forward. There's a certain irony in the way we view trials. We long for the promise of success, for the joys of victory. But we are often reluctant to embrace the path that leads us there. We want the fruit, but we do not want to endure the process that grows it. It is a peculiar thing, isn't it? How easily we desire the end, yet resist the journey. But the truth is, the journey is where the transformation happens. It is in the trials that our faith is refined, our character is shaped, and our destiny is forged. C.S. Lewis once said, "Pain insists upon being attended to." Pain, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, has a way of making us pay attention. We cannot ignore it. It demands that we face it, that we wrestle with it. But what if pain, rather than being an enemy to be avoided, is actually a tool in God's hands? What if it is in the furnace of affliction that we are truly refined? Consider the refining process that gold undergoes. When gold is first mined, it is far from pure. It is mixed with impurities, with dross that must be removed before it can shine in its full glory. And so it is placed into a furnace where it is heated to extreme temperatures. The fire burns away the impurities, leaving only the pure gold behind. This process, though painful for the gold, is essential for its transformation. In the same way, God places us in the fire of trials and struggles. These seasons may not be pleasant, but they serve a divine purpose. The fire refines us, burning away the pride, self-reliance, impatience, and all that hinders our growth. It is in the fire that we are made more like Christ, that we are molded into the vessels He desires us to be. The key, however, is not to run from the fire, but to endure it. Isaiah 43:2 reminds us, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." Notice that God does not say, "If you pass through the fire," but "when." It is a certainty that we will face trials, that we will walk through the fire. But God promises that He will be with us in the midst of it. It is important to understand that the fire does not exist to destroy us. It exists to refine us, to purify us, to make us stronger. When we walk through the fire, we may feel the heat, we may be battered by the flames, but we will not be consumed. God's presence will shield us, and His purpose will be fulfilled in our lives. C.S. Lewis also observed, "The pain of the soul is not a thing to be ignored. It is an indication that something is amiss, something needs to be healed, something needs to be restored." The fire reveals the areas of our lives that need healing. It exposes the weaknesses that we might otherwise ignore, forcing us to confront them and allow God to restore them. In this way, the fire becomes a blessing, a tool in God's hands to bring about our transformation. But it is not easy. The fire is hot. The journey is long. There will be moments when we question God's goodness, moments when we wonder if we can bear it any longer. But it is in these moments that we must choose to trust. We must choose to believe that the fire will not consume us, that God's purpose is being worked out in our lives, even when we cannot see it. When we are in the midst of trials, it is easy to become discouraged. We can become fixated on the pain, the discomfort, the uncertainty. But we must remember that God is doing something in us. He is refining us. He is making us ready for what lies ahead. The fire is preparing us for the promise. Just as Abraham had to patiently endure, so too must we. And just as he obtained the promise, so will we. God's promises are sure, but they require our patience. They require us to trust in His timing and His process. The fire, though it burns, is only temporary. And when we come out on the other side, we will be purified, stronger, and ready to fulfill the destiny He has prepared for us. So, my friend, when you find yourself in the fire, do not run. Do not despair. Know that God is with you. Know that He is refining you, shaping you, and preparing you for something greater. Trust the process, and in time, you will see the fruit of your endurance. You will see the glory that awaits you on the other side of the fire. Patience is a word that many of us dread. We live in a world that thrives on instant gratification. We want things now. We don't want to wait. And yet, the Christian life is often characterized by one essential virtue: patience. But what is patience? Is it simply waiting for something to happen? Or is there a deeper, more profound meaning to this virtue? C.S. Lewis, in his timeless wisdom, once said, "I am sure that God keeps no one waiting unless He sees that it is good for him to wait." This statement carries with it an essential truth. Waiting is not a passive activity. It is a process, a transformation. It is in the waiting that God molds us, shapes us, and prepares us for the future He has promised. Waiting is not wasted time. It is sacred time. It is the time where God works His will in us, even when we cannot see it. The Bible speaks of patience in many ways. James 1:2-3 says, "Count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience." Trials are not a sign of God's absence, but a tool He uses to build patience in us. Without patience, we cannot endure the journey that leads to fulfillment. Patience is the muscle that sustains our faith when things don't make sense, when the promises seem distant, when the road ahead appears long and uncertain. We live in a fast-paced world where everything is at our fingertips. We have access to food, information, and entertainment instantly. And yet, this culture of immediacy often spills over into our spiritual lives. We want quick answers. We want our prayers answered yesterday. But God's ways are not our ways. His timing is perfect, and He knows that the process of waiting is necessary for our transformation. Patience, when understood in the context of God's kingdom, becomes not just the ability to wait, but the ability to wait with hope, with trust, and with a deep sense of purpose. It is the confident assurance that God is at work, even when we cannot see Him. It is the quiet knowing that, though the answer may not come today, God is preparing us for something far greater than we could ever imagine. Consider the story of Joseph. He was a young man with a dream of greatness, of ruling over his brothers. But that dream did not come to pass quickly. Instead, Joseph was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. It seemed as though everything was going wrong. But Joseph, even in the midst of his trials, held fast to his faith. He chose to wait on God. And in God's perfect timing, he was elevated to a place of power and influence. His patience, his ability to trust God in the waiting, made him ready for the promise. It is often in the seasons of waiting that we experience the deepest growth. When everything seems to be standing still, when we cannot see the way forward, God is at work beneath the surface. He is preparing us, strengthening us, teaching us lessons that we cannot learn in times of ease. It is in these times that our character is shaped, our faith is refined, and our trust in God is deepened. And yet, patience does not come naturally. We are creatures of action, and waiting often feels like a waste of time. We may find ourselves questioning God. Why am I still waiting? Why hasn't the promise come yet? But in those moments, we must remember that God's purpose is far greater than our understanding. He is preparing us for something eternal, something that cannot be rushed. And in the waiting, we are being made ready to receive the fullness of his promise. C.S. Lewis beautifully captured this idea when he said, "The waiting is the hardest part." It is true. The waiting can feel like a burden, a trial in itself. But it is also the place where we learn to surrender. We learn to trust that God's timing is perfect, even when it feels like the clock is moving too slowly. We learn to embrace the process, knowing that the destination is worth the wait. The truth is, patience is a key to unlocking God's promises. It is in the waiting, the trusting, and the enduring that we become the people God created us to be. It is in patience that we grow in faith, hope, and love. And as we patiently wait on the Lord, we become more like him. Isaiah 40:31 offers a beautiful promise to those who wait on the Lord. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. The promise is not just about the destination. It is about the transformation that happens in the waiting. Those who wait on God are renewed. Their strength is restored. And when the time comes, they will soar. So, my dear friend, how are you waiting today? Are you waiting with impatience, with frustration, with doubt? Or are you waiting with hope, with trust, with the confident assurance that God is working all things together for your good? The key to unlocking the promise is patience. And in patience, you will find that God is working in you, making you ready for the future he has prepared. Remember, as Lewis said, God keeps no one waiting unless he sees that it is good for them. And if he has you in a season of waiting, trust that he is doing something beautiful in your life. There's something incredibly powerful about the idea of refinement. It's a concept that touches on the deepest parts of our spiritual journey. When we speak of refinement, we often think of precious metals, such as gold or silver, undergoing a process of purification. These metals, when first discovered, are far from perfect. They are rough, impure, and unfit for use in the crafts and treasures they are intended to become. But through fire, through intense heat, they are purified. The impurities are burned away, leaving behind only what is valuable, what is pure. This process is not only true for metals, it is also true for us. God's refining process is not always pleasant, but it is essential. As C.S. Lewis once stated, pain insists upon being attended to. Pain, though uncomfortable and difficult, is often the very thing that brings about the greatest transformation. It forces us to confront our weaknesses, to surrender our pride, to let go of our self-reliance. And as we do so, God refines us. He purifies us. He makes us into the people He desires us to be. We see this truth clearly in the Bible, particularly in the book of Malachi. Malachi 3:3 says, "He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver." This verse paints a vivid picture of God as a silversmith, carefully tending to the fire, watching over the process of refinement, ensuring that the silver is purified. The silversmith does not leave the silver in the fire for too long. He watches it closely, knowing exactly when to remove it. In the same way, God watches over us, knowing exactly how much heat we need to endure in order to be refined. He does not allow us to suffer beyond what is necessary, and He is always present, guiding us through the process. It is easy to become discouraged when we face trials. It is easy to question God, to wonder why He is allowing us to go through such difficulty. But we must remember that the fire is not the end. It is a means to an end. It is not about destruction. It is about transformation. God is not punishing us. He is purifying us. He is removing the things in our lives that are hindering us from becoming who He has called us to be. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pain. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world." It is often through the pain of our trials that we are most awakened to the reality of God's presence. When life is comfortable, we may take God's blessings for granted. But when we are in the fire, when we are struggling, we are forced to listen more closely, to seek His presence more earnestly, and to trust in His work more deeply. We are refined not only in the quiet, peaceful moments of life, but in the loud, painful moments as well. These moments are not wasted. They are used by God to shape us, to mold us, and to prepare us for the future He has in store. It is in the midst of pain that our faith is tested. It is in the fire that we discover the depths of God's love, the strength of His promises, and the certainty of His presence. We see this process vividly in the story of Joseph. Joseph's life was filled with hardship, betrayal by his brothers, being sold into slavery, being falsely accused, and being thrown into prison. It seemed as though his dreams of greatness were nothing but a distant memory. Yet through it all, Joseph's faith never wavered. He trusted that God was at work, even when he couldn't see it. And in God's perfect timing, Joseph's refinement led him to a place of influence and leadership in Egypt, where he was able to save countless lives during a time of famine. Joseph's story reminds us that the process of refinement is not easy, but it is necessary. Without the trials he faced, Joseph would not have been prepared for the leadership role he was called to. It was the fire of his trials that refined him, that made him ready to fulfill God's purpose for his life. And the same is true for us. The trials we face are not in vain. They are shaping us for the destiny God has prepared for us. So, when you find yourself in the fire, remember that it is not to destroy you. It is to refine you. It is to purify you. It is to make you more like Christ. And though the process may be difficult, trust that God is with you every step of the way, watching over you as you are refined in the fire. The refining process is a gift. It is God's way of making us more like Him. preparing us for the purpose He has for our lives. And when we come out on the other side, we will be stronger, purer, and ready to embrace the promise that awaits us. It is often said that we live in a world that loves to celebrate success, but not the journey that leads to it. It is easy to admire someone's success from a distance, but we often fail to appreciate the price they have paid to get there. In a culture that celebrates the outward appearance of achievement, we sometimes overlook the long, arduous road that those who are truly successful have walked. They have endured pain, loss, failure, and rejection. They have faced trials that most of us will never fully understand. And it is through these trials, through this refining process, that they have become who they are today. C.S. Lewis, with his profound understanding of human nature, once remarked, "What you see and hear depends a good deal on where you are standing." This truth is not only applicable in our daily lives, but also in our spiritual journeys. Our ability to appreciate success often depends on our perspective. When we see someone else's victory, we are quick to judge it, either with admiration or with criticism. But unless we have walked the same path, we cannot truly appreciate the cost of that success. Success, true success, is not simply the result of talent or opportunity. It is the result of perseverance, of enduring the trials that come along the way. When we see others succeed, we must remember that behind their success is a story of pain, struggle, and sacrifice. It is easy to criticize the player who misses the ball, who seems out of breath, or who fails to meet expectations. But what we fail to realize is that every player has their own story, their own battle, and sometimes it is only after we step into their shoes that we begin to understand the full weight of their journey. Take, for example, those who lead others. Whether in ministry, business, or any other field, leadership is not a position of ease. It is a position of sacrifice, of bearing responsibility, of carrying burdens that others cannot see. The weight of leadership often goes unnoticed, especially by those who have never had to carry it themselves. It is easy to criticize a leader who seems to be struggling. But we forget that their struggle is often the result of unseen pressures. Pressures that have shaped them, refined them, and prepared them for the position they hold. C.S. Lewis reminds us that the task of the modern educator is not to cut down jungles, but to irrigate deserts. This truth applies not just to educators, but to all of us. We are all called to help others grow, to water the dry places in their lives, and to encourage them in their journey. But to do so, we must first appreciate the struggles they face. We must understand that success is not a destination, but a journey that is shaped by trials, failures, and hardships. When we fail to appreciate the journey of others, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to learn from their experiences. We miss the chance to understand the true value of their success. In many ways, our ability to honor others is directly connected to our own ability to endure our own trials. When we have faced hardship, when we have been refined by fire, we begin to see success through a different lens. We no longer envy those who have achieved great things. Instead, we honor them. We understand the cost of their success, and we respect the process that brought them to where they are. Consider the Apostle Paul, who endured incredible hardships in his ministry. He was beaten, imprisoned, shipwrecked, and often in want. Yet, through all of these trials, Paul remained faithful to the calling on his life. He understood that success in God's kingdom is not measured by external achievement, but by internal transformation. He knew that the trials he faced were not in vain. They were shaping him, refining him, and preparing him for the ministry to which God had called him. We too must remember that the process of refinement is not just for us. It is for others as well. When we endure the trials of life, when we walk through the fire and come out on the other side, we become better equipped to help others. We become more compassionate, more understanding, and more able to appreciate the struggles that others face. It is through our own journey that we learn to honor the journeys of others. And when we do, we find that our perspective changes. We no longer look at success with envy or bitterness. Instead, we look at it with gratitude, grateful for the lessons we have learned along the way, and grateful for the opportunity to walk alongside others as they, too, navigate their own journeys. Success is not just about the destination. It is about the journey. It is about the trials we face, the lessons we learn, and the growth that occurs along the way. And when we appreciate the process of others, we begin to see the beauty in our own. When we first embark on a journey, we often have grand hopes and dreams. We see the destination and imagine what it will be like when we arrive. But as we walk, the path doesn't always unfold as we expect. It twists, it turns, and sometimes it feels as though we are going in circles. The journey is longer than we anticipated, and the challenges are harder than we imagined. Yet, it is in these very moments, when we are tired, weary, and questioning the purpose of it all, that we are truly being prepared for something greater. In the midst of our trials, it is easy to forget the bigger picture. We become focused on the struggle, the pain, and the waiting. But God, in His wisdom, knows that the process is as important as the destination. It is the process that shapes us, refines us, and prepares us for the future He has planned. The trials we face are not random. They are intentional. They are part of God's divine design for our lives. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "We are what we believe we are becoming." This truth speaks to the essence of the process we go through. The difficulties we face are not meant to break us. They are meant to build us. Each trial, each hardship, is a step in the refining process, shaping us into the people God created us to be. And though the process may feel long, and though it may be painful, we must remember that it is not without purpose. God is not a hasty God. He does not rush His work. He is patient and deliberate, ensuring that every part of our journey is preparing us for the greatness that lies ahead. Hebrews 12:11 reminds us, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it." The process is not easy, but it is worth it. And though we may not see it in the moment, God is working in ways that we cannot fully comprehend. The truth is, we often do not appreciate the process until we are on the other side of it. It is only when we look back after the storm has passed that we see how much we have grown. We see how far we've come. We see the strength we have gained, the lessons we have learned, and the character we have developed. We begin to understand that the process was not about our comfort or our convenience. It was about our transformation. But this transformation requires our participation. We must choose to embrace the process even when it is difficult. We must choose to trust that God is at work, even when we cannot see it. We must choose to endure, knowing that every step we take is one step closer to the fulfillment of His promises. In the final analysis, the journey is as much about who we become as it is about where we are going. God's goal is not just to get us to the destination, but to make us ready for it. And that readiness comes through the trials, the waiting, the refining, and the enduring. As we reflect on this, we must ask ourselves, how are we responding to the process? Are we resisting it, complaining about it, or are we embracing it with trust and patience? Our response to the journey determines how much we will grow through it. We must learn to see our trials not as obstacles, but as opportunities. Opportunities to become more like Christ, to deepen our faith, and to grow in the knowledge of His love. So, I leave you with this thought. No matter where you are on your journey, no matter how difficult the path may seem, know that it is not in vain. God is with you every step of the way. He is refining you, shaping you, and preparing you for the greatness He has planned for you. Trust the process. Embrace the journey, and know that the promise is waiting for you on the other side. As we reflect on the journey we've walked through together, let us remember that the trials we face are not punishments. They are opportunities for growth. Patience, endurance, and trust in God's timing are the keys to navigating the process of refinement. Each season, whether it is filled with silence or struggle, is shaping us for the breakthrough that lies ahead. Trust that God is working in ways you cannot yet see, and hold on to the promise that He will bring you through it stronger, wiser, and more prepared to fulfill your purpose. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this journey. How has God been refining you in your life? Share your reflections in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the C.S. Lewis channel for more insights and inspiration to deepen your walk with God.